give more returns. Get more security and more interest on your fixed deposits from Sri Lanka's largest finance company, LMDtv Finance.
The key to quality and efficiency. Be a jewel. Professionalism is the jewel in the corporate crown.
Refresh Sri Lanka for a civic-minded society in association with 99X. LMD, the voice of business.
Hello and welcome to LMDtv and another episode of The Forum. Today we're zooming in on the insurance landscape of Sri Lanka, and with us we have the Deputy Chairman of Janashakthi Life, Prakash Schaffter. It's very nice to have you on the show, Prakash.
Good to be here with you as well.
To start off our conversation today, everyone talks of Sri Lanka having very low insurance penetration. Against that statistic, I've heard that it's 4%. I'm not sure. You can maybe clarify that. Against that statistic, and then comes the crisis. How is the sector performing?
You were embarrassing me right at the outset. The measure of insurance penetration is in fact a percentage of GDP. Okay. And our insurance penetration has been hovering around 1.5% for the last, I don't know, maybe a decade or more. And life insurance accounts for just about half of that, just over half. It's been a challenge because I think the insurers have to take responsibility for the fact that insurance penetration is not anywhere near where it should be. Even if you take our so-called less developed South Asian neighbors, the insurance penetration rates are somewhere between 3 to 4.5%, 5%. Even in India, it's about 4.5%. So the insurance penetration rates are low, and as I've said previously at other forums, this gives insurers an opportunity to expand their business. Unfortunately, the insurance industry has not been able to crack the code for increasing the insurance business as a percentage of GDP. And one of the challenges has been the renewal continuity of insurance policies. And I suspect that's partly because of the fact that we are an island. We have an island mentality. Our people are easygoing, laid back. Will never happen to me syndrome. So therefore, selling insurance, especially life insurance, has proved a challenge. But having said all of that, I am yet hopeful that the insurance industry will be able to make a bigger contribution to the nation's progress.
And crack the code.
Certainly cracking the code is an integral part of it.
Prakash, you spoke about island mentality and it's never going to happen to us thinking. When we look at the Sri Lankan consumer, how have they evolved? Have they evolved in terms of their needs, and if so, how?
Well, I'm sure the needs of consumers have evolved. And that's a process which happens on an ongoing basis. As far as life insurance needs of consumers are concerned, yes, they have evolved with other developments in the economy. So you have moved from what was maybe many decades ago a plain vanilla life insurance product which paid out if you died, and if you didn't die, it paid out nothing. That is a very basic pure life insurance as we insurers would like to term it. It has now moved to becoming a combination of protection or insurance protection plus savings. So if you ask me, today's consumer is more focused on the savings component, looking closely at what his return on the policy is before deciding the type of product that he wants and also the choice of insurer. So insurance companies also have evolved their skill sets and moved from pure protection based selling to more of a wealth management, shall I say, where we have honed our skills and improved our skills on how to manage people's wealth and how to provide them optimum returns.
So a little bit of innovation helped, or did consumers help?
I would say innovation has to be there, but the consumer is also playing a role because it is his need, it is the push that he gives us that makes us also think out of the box and move up. So it's an iterative process, I would say. But I think the industry has benefited from doing it, and so has the consumer, because there are lots of consumers with small ticket sizes who cannot go and afford to take out, say, a fixed deposit in a bank. They would take out an insurance policy which gives them the protection that they need, plus also they have an element of saving, and we being large and accumulating other people's savings are able to do that investment role better than the individual consumer would be able to do.
So win-win scenario.
Hopefully a win-win scenario, yes. I like to think of it being so.
Like you said, consumers' needs keep evolving, and we're also seeing new segments of consumers coming up from millennials and Gen Z, and then different categories of why they come into insurance, like you were saying. What are the most prospective segments that you see emerging?
Well, if you look at Sri Lanka as a country, the few changes that I've seen happening are our middle class has been expanding fairly rapidly, as has been the case in India as well. So that's one segment. The other is the increase of women in the labor force. Traditionally, insurance has been thought of as a product which is there for the head of the household to provide for in the event that the main breadwinner passes on. And perception-wise, it is thought insurance is for males, but not so any longer, I would think. Women are contributing equally in the country's economy, and even at the household level, their contribution is immeasurable, and they too would need life insurance. Last but not least, and I would think certainly very importantly, is the new generation, the young professionals, the students who will be tomorrow's insurance buyers. I think those three segments, if we look at it separately, we would have to be ready to cater for these segments in the insurance of tomorrow. So that would involve a lot of work on our part, because we have looked at, traditionally I think insurers have focused on the 35 to 40, 45-year-old males who are presumed breadwinners of the family. So that market has shifted, and we have to be able to evolve to cater to the needs of this segment. And we've done it. I think there's a long way to go, but insurers have been doing it at least piecemeal. And I think in order to do this, we need, either as an industry or as individual players, we would need in-depth knowledge of the market. We would have to analyze this segment, see what they want, what drives them to purchase insurance, see how we could cater our product offering to their needs. And that would be a, shall I say, medium to long-term project. It's not something we can do in the space of 6 months to a year.
If I prod a little on the last segment, the Gen Z's hot topic of every conversation, any distinct differences that you see on the surface, at least, of how their needs are when compared to the other generations?
Well, the first thing is, I would say it positively, though it may sound negative, they don't have the patience to sit and go through a long process to buy anything, leave alone insurance. So traditional insurance as it is done in this country is done by foot soldiers. It is people, males and females, walking or going by other modes of transport to people's houses, meeting face to face, and then doing the hard sell of insurance. And that's what we call an agency-driven sales force. So that's been the norm in Sri Lanka, and yet continues to be the norm. With the onset of COVID, there was digital innovation by insurers, because we realized that face-to-face contact was difficult, and we had no idea how long it was going to be difficult for. So we had to be nimble, we had to evolve, and so there is digital advertising, there is digital onboarding, and also facility for digital payments, digital claims, the whole gamut. I think end-to-end, at least for the not so complicated products, we've got it online. But unfortunately, the take-up has been limited. I don't think there is much of digital insurance transacted in this country as at date. But the Gen Z which you're talking about, that's what they want. They don't want to be spending time on anything. Their patience or the time span they have for looking at things is limited. They want to be in, out, and deal done. And I think that's good. And if we are going to cater to that generation, we've got to be nimble, we've got to be really agile and be able to get things done accurately and speedily.
And you raised a good point, the digital transformation of the industry. I mean, we recently read an article on FinTech Global, I think, where they said insurance companies around the world are going to simplify the so-called complex process of processing claims with the help of AI and, of course, other tools. How is the picture looking like in Sri Lanka? I'm not talking just of AI, but digital technologies per se.
So, what FinTech Global has said may be true as a broad brush sweep. In Sri Lanka, I think we've taken baby steps, shall I say, but I don't think we've gone that whole hog. I don't think there's been a concerted effort on the part of insurance companies to say, hey, I want to be absolutely digital and every aspect of my process needs to cater to that. I'm sure it will happen. There will be a bit of push from the consumer and we will evolve, but there's a lot of work to be done in my opinion. In doing that, you've also got to be mindful that there are certain regulatory aspects which we've got to take care of. We have to be compliant with anti-money laundering regulations. So all of that sometimes detract from digitalization, because pure digitalization is where you go into something, you fill in minimal amount of forms and then you're out and 5 minutes later you're done. Now with all the AML and compliance that is in place, that's a tad difficult. They will want address proof, they'll want to know who you are, they have a half a dozen other things where you comply. You will have to show your proof of income, you will have to ensure that your source of funds is there. So you can't be earning, say, a 25,000 rupee salary and taking out a policy where the premium is $1 million rupees a year. The two don't match. So those things you can't do purely digitally. It's going to throw it out as an exception and you're going to have to deal with it manually. But I do see digitalization happening. Our march has been very slow, if you ask me. I mean, if I take India, digitalization has been way faster. We may have started earlier, but we have a long way to go, and I'm hopeful that we will move in the right direction. And I'm talking not only about the insurance industry, I'm talking about our country. It's in every sphere, whether you are paying your taxi fare or whether you're paying a hotel or a restaurant or whether you're paying an insurance premium. It's that digitalization, even in the payment arena, has yet to happen.
Now it's time to take a short break. We'll come back soon to talk more about insurance.
Display your brand message on digital screens at prime locations. The largest digital advertising network in Sri Lanka. Emerging media.
You're mobile, and so are we.
Gets me going.
Grab the Lite 87 app at the Apple App Store or Google Play now.
87.8 and 87.6 island-wide. Lite 87.
Welcome back to the show. We're talking about insurance and the insurance landscape of Sri Lanka, and with us we have the Deputy Chairman of Janashakthi Life, Prakash Schaffter. Prakash, I'm going to keep coming back to consumers. So you were saying how Gen Z doesn't have the patience. So speed is something that we are seeing as a very, very important need across the board. But when you take insurance, like if you compare accuracy versus speed or quality versus customer centricity, how should insurance companies strike that balance?
I think the word balance is important. It's not either or. You can't sacrifice speed for accuracy, and neither can you do it the other way around. So each insurer will have their own sweet spot, and that's their USP. So I think as far as Janashakthi is concerned, we want to be fast, but not at the cost of accuracy. And what we have done is we have tried to leverage technology to enhance our speed. And I think technology is the way forward. Just chucking in more manpower or foot soldiers is not the solution. So you have to look at how you can become more nimble, more agile using technology, and there is technology out there. So it's how you deploy it and how you can harness it in your organization that matters. And I'm confident that the insurance industry itself will over the next 5-10 years evolve. And we will become more nimble, we will become more agile, And also you will find that digitalization or the digital transformation does take place. It will have to, it's inevitable.
Yes. And when striking this balance, where do ethics come in, and how can we balance the ethical side also with all this speed and digitalization?
I don't think ethics is something that we can compromise on, because ethics is not an either or. Just like I said, accuracy versus speed is not necessarily an either or. Ethics certainly doesn't fit into that. Ethics for me is the bedrock, it's the foundation of everything you do. So at Janashakthi, I would like to think that we are an organization which is founded on certain ethics, and we will live up to those ethics. We will not compromise ethics for speed, accuracy, or for business. That won't happen.
And when we talk of ethics, just like the insurers, the consumers too have to be ethical. I mean, you have to meet each other halfway. When you look at the Sri Lankan market, what is your assessment of how we uphold ethics?
How shall I put it? It's a difficult question to answer, because ethics are individual to each person. They are unique to an institution. So I wouldn't want to lump all Sri Lankans together, but I would say that you do have exceptions even as far as consumers go, where they do not uphold the same ethical standards that we as an organization would uphold. And that's something we've got to deal with. I mean, when you've got a population of 21 million, you can't expect all 21 or 22 million to uphold the same high ethical standards that we would want them to uphold. So I would say that by and large consumers are ethical, in that they would disclose the facts, they would answer the questions truthfully, and that is critical to the contract. The fact that we would want them to answer all the questions we have asked truthfully, and we would want them to go beyond that, because we would want them to share the information which they have and they are privy to, which is relevant to the insurance contract, even if we have not necessarily asked the question. So I would think that by and large consumers in Sri Lanka are ethical. I would hate to think that Sri Lankan consumers are unethical, and that we've got to run our business on the lines that most consumers are unethical, and that we need to police that.
Prakash, my next question to you revolves around LMD's campaign, Refresh Sri Lanka. So we launched this campaign to create civic mindedness among all Sri Lankans. Now, when we talk of civic mindedness and when we look at the insurance sector, how should the insurance companies ensure that civic mindedness is always in the agenda?
Okay. So I'm very happy that LMD has taken that on as an initiative, and ours is a Sri Lankan company. We are part of a group of companies which is Sri Lankan, and we are therefore committed to this country. And if you look at the concept of being civic minded, I think the fact that insurance is provided itself is assisting that agenda. Because insurance by its very nature is something which provides protection to people which they otherwise cannot avail of. But just quite apart from that, I think we in our capacity as insurers, we have our own programs where we would try to assist the underprivileged, those who are less fortunate than us. And as a wider group as well, we have various projects ongoing where we would look at where we can make a difference, and then we would help. So I think as far as being civic minded is concerned, we are extremely conscious of that. We try to do the little that we can, because we cannot transform a country, but certainly we would select the areas that we want to make a difference in, and we would do our part.
And it helps that it's ingrained in the concept of insurance, like you said.
Yes, that certainly makes a difference.
Wow.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're almost at the end of our conversation, Prakash, but before we let you go, any closing thoughts that you would like to leave with our audience?
Insurance has been around in Sri Lanka for, around 100 years. And I think that insurance has contributed to the safety and security of the Sri Lankan public. And we need to and have a long way to go. And I'm confident that the industry, with the support of regulators, would be able to develop an agenda to ensure that insurance, the importance of insurance in the country's economy, improves as we go along. We have a long way, as I told you at the outset. We are way behind our South Asian neighbors. We are hardly, as a life insurance industry, we are less than 1% of the country's GDP. And we've got to try and have a concerted effort and a laid out program to increase it substantially. And I'm hopeful that we'll be able to do that.
It's going to be a long journey, but a fruitful one.
Very long journey indeed, and I hope I'll be around.
Thank you. We've been talking to the Deputy Chairman of Janashakthi Insurance, Prakash Schaffter. It was very nice having you on the show, Prakash.
Thank you, and it's been my pleasure as well.
And to all our viewers, thank you so much for joining us today. Until next time, take care.
Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you for watching and stay safe.